Everybody, Marty Mazzaro, March 1st, 2017, your weekly video. Thought we'd start today just by looking at today. We don't normally do this, but it was such a nice rally, and you probably already know the Dow was up a little over 300 points, good for about 1.5%. S&P was up about 1.4%. The green dots are next to sector ETFs, where we have, at least by sector, not necessarily the ETF itself, but we have a 10% or greater allocation to. Materials were up almost 2%, so they outperformed the averages. Financials were up a bunch, 2.85. Industrials, 1.7. Energy up 2. Technology up 1.4. And then consumer discretionary up 1.12. Blue dots, we have less than 10%, but we do have some allocation to. Telecom was up 0.85. Staples up 0.5%, and healthcare up 1%. We have zero allocation to utilities, and they were down 0.9% today. Utilities are very interest rate sensitive, as I've illustrated for you here ad nauseum. That's why we're not allocating anything there as of the moment. Keep with the theme that we've been on for quite some time, and that is the trend. This is the great Jesse Livermore. The big money is not in the individual fluctuations, but in the big movements. That is not in reading the tape, but in sizing up the entire market and its trend, which is what we try to do here at PWA. So I've been showing you for weeks now price charts with things like moving averages and other indicators, and I thought we would just take a look at market breadth. We haven't done this in a while, and overall breadth is a good indicator to kind of gauge the health of the market and of the current rally, or bull market, if you will. So the S&P equal weighted index, which is the mountain chart or the white line, the green line is the S&P 500. The equal weight index gives equal weight to every issue in the S&P. Whereas the green line, the index itself is cap weighted, so Apple is going to have a much more dramatic impact on the index than it would be a much smaller company. So to get a gauge of overall breadth, then of course we'd want to look at the equal weighted index, which would move higher if indeed it's a broad-based rally. When it's more concentrated in big issues, the green line would be higher. As you can see, for the last year, normalized to 100, the S&P equal weight index has actually outperformed the S&P itself. Compare that to a year like 2015, which the Wall Street Journal said was one of the toughest years on record to make money. It wasn't a hugely down year. It was not a good year, but you can see it was tough because not a lot of stocks were doing all that well. It was really just the big names that were pushing the S&P 500. On a year-to-date basis, we have a little red flag. The S&P 500 actually, when you look at it year-to-date, normalize it to 100 at the beginning of the year. You now have the S&P 500 itself outperforming the equal weight index, although it looks like it's trying to catch it. So that would be something to keep our eye on. Another thing to look at would be the number of issues in the S&P 500 that are actually trading above their 50-day moving averages. And this is, I think, an important breadth indicator as well. And right in here, the folks who have been bearish and remain bearish, we're screaming red flags, red flags. This is a harbinger of bad things for the market. But you can see since then, breadth based on this indicator has improved dramatically. When we fold in how this looks against the S&P, this is a 2-year chart. Sure enough, you can see the kind of the divergence in terms of where this chart was going versus the S&P 500. And sure enough, we had that correction. It was the first 10% correction in 4 years, and that was in the latter part of the summer of 2015 into the fall. And then we had breadth come back, we had the market come back, but look at it roll over here, leading to the worst start to a year in history at the beginning of 2016. Now it is kind of noisy, you can see it moving all over the place. You see here, it began to roll over, that's what everybody was worried about, but right now we have kind of an encouraging sign of breadth. I could draw a trend line though that shows somewhat of a divergence, so this is something as well to keep an eye on, looking better of late. And then the advanced decline line. This is an old chart. I just updated it through yesterday. Now here I was showing you this consolidation box. It goes all the way back to 2014 into early 2016, and how we kind of lived inside there before we finally broke out. Ironically, breadth based on the advanced decline line. And by the way, this is the accumulation line that sums the difference between advancers and decliners. So when there's more advancers than decliners, meaning better breadth, this line goes up. When there's more decliners than advancers, the line goes down. As you can see, the AD line actually looks pretty good, pretty healthy, and does support the notion that we're in a pretty good, perhaps sustainable trend for the moment. That said, folks, as I said in the preface to today's quote of the day, we are going to get drawdowns. We do every year, and I'll be here each week to give you my perspective on what's going on. Thank you, as always, for watching and listening. Look in the next 2 or 3 days for my weekly message, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.